All right, welcome back. First Charged Up has now been officially played for 2 weeks, and we saw some great competition across the world. We have a lot to unpack in this show, like breaking down the 111 and 112 team dynamic and their trip at Midwest this past weekend, with 111 taking the crown, a discussion related to the game Charged Up and where does it go from here after week 2, and advantage and disadvantages of building an Everybot or similar, such as the RevBot, for your team. All of this and more coming up on this edition of FRC Roundup.
This video on First Updates Now is made possible by viewers like you and also the following sponsors. Kettering University is looking for talented robotics students who want to continue learning and innovating in a hands-on, real-world experience format. Kettering University representatives will be at dozens of FIRST events this season, including the championship. Go to kettering.edu/first to see which events you can meet a Kettering University representative. FRC competition season is here. Submit your favorite moments to FRC Clips of the Week by each Sunday at discord.gg/firstupdatesnow. Also, the FRC Top 25 poll is open Sunday 5 p.m. Eastern to Monday 5 p.m. Eastern, where you can vote for your top 25 teams of the week at firstupdatesnow.com/FRC Top 25.
All right, welcome to the show. If you've not caught our show previously, FRC Roundup is where we take a look at important topics currently happening in FRC, highlight some discussion points about events that may have happened, strategy, or anything that really correlates with FRC. If you, the fun community, think that there is a topic that we should discuss on FRC Roundup, please feel free to ping me on the Fun Discord, and I'll be more than happy to take a look at it. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Nick Mathis, and I'm currently in the 1st in Michigan region and am a mentor for Team 33, the Killer Bees out of Auburn Hills.
And I am Connor McBride, mentor for Team 166 Chop Shop and game announcer in the New England District. Our guest tonight is Harrison Drake. Harrison is a mechanical engineer at Stern Pinball. Yes, you heard that correctly. He works on pinball machines for a living. How cool is that? He is also the lead mentor for Team 111 Wild Stang from Chicago, Illinois. Harrison, welcome to the show, my friend.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks again. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into our first topic, which is going to be discussing the team dynamic between 111 and 112, both having 2 teams now out of the relatively same Wild Stang Robotics program in your trip in Midwest. So Harrison, we'll kind of throw it right to you and just talk a little bit about, obviously, the dynamic, the decision to add +1, and then we'll jump into the discussion about Midwest after.
Yeah, so just a little bit of background. So the Wild Stang program started as kind of 2 high schools, back in the 90s, and it's grown and grown and grown and grown. And we're at the point now where we're all 7 high schools in our school district. So we,
Wow.
basically the entire northwest suburbs
That's
of Chicago.
awesome.
And with that bigger population we pull from, that means team size goes up and up and up and up and up. And this has kind of been a problem for a while, but like back after our 2011 championship, the team was almost 130 people, which is that was a problem. At a certain point, it just becomes kind of a burden and ends up taking away from what students can get out of our program. Carry on. We go through our a rough patch in the mid 2010s and. Then COVID hits, and we kind of got blessed with this opportunity in 2021. So we had posted about it on Chief, but we had done a intramural program within Wild Stang just because FRC wasn't doing anything really competitive. There was the at-home challenges, but not the traditional robot building that everyone knows. So we did our intramural field goal challenger where we kind of subdivided into 4 teams, and that kind of it hit us right in the face of what a more healthy, I call it student to robot ratio looks like, and how much more beneficial our program can be for our students. So from that, I got together with team leadership and kind of discuss what it would take to, build more than one FRC robot. Thankfully, bag, bomb, those sorts of things are a thing in the past. So, we're no longer building practice robots, but that budget, money, and time is all still there. So
Right.
It's a perfect opportunity to spin up a second FRC team, get more hands on more robots, give more leadership opportunities to our kids, and then kind of build a pipeline that feeds up through into the 111 program and on. So, we're getting more kids, more experience earlier in their career, so to speak, in FRC.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think that's a good explanation into what you guys, the decision to make the move, and I think it's definitely paid off. Obviously, coming into
Yeah.
Midwest, you guys are both at Midwest, and both were, I think what is it? So 112 was actually on the 2 seed, correct? And then you were the captain of 3 this past weekend, right?
We were captain of 2. 112 was first pick from the
Of
3 seed
3.
Ponage.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what it was. Yeah. So obviously coming in, or Connor, is there anything to add on the dynamic between the two before we kind of jump into the Midwest recap? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Don't have anything of dynamic, but I do have a interesting question to ask once we get after this dynamic.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, obviously jumping into the recap, you guys both competing in Midwest this past weekend. Moving into, in my opinion, what was one of the more entertaining regionals from this past weekend. I know there was a lot of high level teams. 111, 112, Ponage. Cash Money's been on the rise up in the past month or so, and coming into is there any sort of obviously not because you guys didn't end up with each other, but is there any sort of like um, I don't know how to word it, but like golden rule, like if there's an opportunity for 111 to pick 112, like are you guys picking 112 or is it more or less like you're two separate teams at the competition and just kind of do your own thing?
Yeah, so the directive I give to our mentors, our strategy teams, is you make the best strategic decision for the individual team that's possible. Prime example of that, we had a 111 at the 2 seed, had the opportunity to pick 112. We talked about it for a while, not because they're our sister team, but because it was a really well performing robot that brought a lot to an alliance. We ultimately decided to go with 930. Only because kind of twofold. It took a high scoring capable robot off the board, which had we left 930 for Ponage, that would have been a very deadly alliance. And then it also, if 111 were to go down, we had a pretty spectacular mechanical failure on Thursday on practice day. But if that were to recur on that robot, that still left our alliance with a high capable robot. So as far as the situation where 111 was at the 2 seed, 930 was the prime choice there. Again, it's not a rule. We did it at MROC over the seasons of picking 112 for the fun of it. But when it comes to real competitive, when we're playing for banners, each team has the directive to make the strategically correct decision for that situation.
Yeah, so jumping into a little bit, I know we had talked about obviously 111 being on the 2 seed. What was the? I'm going to put you on the spot here, but what was the thought behind declining and deciding to form your own alliance, and that there were obviously enough of the good robots that you guys were happy with, depending on who the 1 seed ended up with, that you would have another robot left over for you.
Yeah, I mean, so 5934 was really the kind of the Cinderella story of that event, right?
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, they're way up from DeKalb. It's not a huge team. It's not a super high resource team, but it's kind of the golden rule of FRC is build the robot you can build the robot that's strategically relevant, and they executed on that flawlessly. I mean, logo cycling obviously proved super effective. Took the 1 seed out from basically everyone else out of that event.
Yeah.
As far as declining, basically the points aren't there, and it was a deep field, right? Especially sitting at 2 seed. There was a little bit of a scorch. We declined, Ponage declined. We kind of also knew that 5934 was a lot of 2338 alumni, and they were sitting at, I believe, 4th or 5th. So we kind of saw that pick coming. 930 being out at 10 actually made that a really easy decision because they were essentially unscorchable, right? If we knew 5934 wanted to be with 2338, 930 was the obvious pick, right? So
yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, no,
sure.
I thought 930 actually ranked a little bit lower than what their robot was actually capable of the whole weekend. Had a couple matches that were a rough schedule, and sometimes it just happens that way. But yeah, so Connor, anything to add?
Yeah, so kind of going away a little bit away from this. So I believe this is your first year that you guys have done a build blog, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So with 111 being like a world-class program that you guys got going on, I'm just kind of curious as to like such a powerhouse team starting up a build blog in 2023. What was the initiative to do that? Like, what was the whole reasoning behind that?
Yeah, so I mean, we've been talking about it for a while, and in private chats, we were pretty liberal with who we shared robot progress with, and just kind of really wanted to put that out there. As far as I'm concerned, first is first and foremost, it's an engineering challenge. It's a learning opportunity for how to design robots. We also happen to be an incredibly a deeply experienced team. I mean, there's probably easily 150 years of FRC mentor experience on this team.
Mm-hmm.
So just for us to be able to document and share that knowledge base we have, Build Blog was the perfect vehicle for that. So much about FRC is about just kind of knowing what to do and when to do it and where to get things and how a thought process works that, we felt we had something to share in that world. So.
For sure. Thank you so much for answering that. And guys, if you're in chat, if you're in the live stream right now, dropping their Chief Delphi build blog link. If you have not checked this out, you really need to read through this. This is one of the best build blogs this season. So you're going to learn so much from this.
So surprisingly, not that much effort, and it saved our bacon a couple times of like we can't remember what gear ratios are in the RM and just scroll back in our own build blog. So
sure.
Right. Yeah. Tyler, you had something you wanted to add before we go ahead and jump into the next topic?
Yeah, Harrison, one of the things I wanted to ask on your team is so we did a behind the bumpers interview with 111 and 112 combined, right? And when I was talking to students on 112, I was asking them, hey, like, how do your teams work together? And the young lady said that they kind of essentially operate as independent units, right? There's actually not a whole lot of collaboration between 111 and 112. I thought that was really interesting to hear. I don't think there's a right or wrong way or anything like that, but I'd love to hear you elaborate just a little bit more on not why it's chosen that way, but why does that work best for Wild Sting and +1 to kind of go the separate route?
It depends on the years, right? So this year, I'd say that was mostly true, mostly because robot archetypes that we had settled on in the individual teams weren't strictly compatible with each other. Obviously, 111's that giant arm on a lift, and 112's more of it's kind of a Everybot derivative, if you will, in some.
Yeah,
some
that's
extent.
a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So as far as cross-pollination there, it's not a lot. If you actually look at the drive bases on those two robots, are almost identical as far as, the 6.2, swerve drive base. If you go back a year to 2022, basically it's a ball shooter game, right? There's only so many ways to design that. Mm-hmm. So the 111 and the 112 ball launching systems were, nearly part interchangeable with each other. There was a bit of mounting change interference between the two, or difference between the two, but functionally, spacing, compression levels, all that were nearly identical. So it really depends on what the game is. This year it happened to be more different. Last year more similar, that sort of thing.
Yeah. For sure. Okay. Well, thanks for that insight. I really appreciate you guys jumping into, it's one of the unique experiences in FRC where we have, two teams with, one program. I know it happens a couple times, but, it's good to, actually dive into, the team dynamic from that start. So
yeah,
go ahead and jump into our second topic from the night. Where does First Charge Up really go from here? I know I was in the shop, the Killer Bee shop on Saturday and working on some new designs, and we had the, Central Valley stream up on the board, and there was a qual match where 4481 Team Rembrandts and 4414 High Tide were in a match, and they were 4 pieces away from maxing the grid in week 2. And I think this is something that a lot of us had anticipated more or less. Obviously in any game where you can max scoring out, there's always the small capability of it happening. I know last time was probably 2017, I think, from off my head, where you could actually max the game out with the amount of gears that you could score in that game. But, we're in week 2 and we're already seeing, 2 powerhouse teams paired up with each other, and they're four game pieces away from maxing out the grid, in the match. So I guess, just wanted to have a discussion on, where could the game possibly go from here? Do we get a higher level of defensive play when we get, into further weeks, which I think is, probably an option that's going to happen, and that'll spice up the game a little bit. But, Connor, we'll start with you, and, where do you really think First Charged Up goes from here?
It's going to boil down to who's more consistent than the other. With a limited amount of scoring, it's pretty obvious. The way that teams have getting exponentially better year after year after year. We've seen it start up from last year, even from 2019, just miles better teams all across the board. It's going to boil down to that, plus who also draws the least amount of penalties. And unfortunately, at least in my opinion, those penalties are mostly going to come from that defensive robot. So just having a super, super well-driven second pick is going to mean the difference between winning your event and coming up just short.
Yeah, absolutely. Harrison, you got a chance to finally play the game officially this past weekend. Where do you think it goes from here in this sense?
Yeah, I'm not going to be shocked if that grid gets maxed. I think where a lot of the difference making is going to come down is it's time efficiency, right? It's how fast can you do that, and when can you go over to play triple defense, and then it's also the missable points. I don't think we've seen anyone do a perfect auto yet. There's 7 auto points there that hasn't happened.
Yep.
Getting that, that 12-point deficit from not getting an engage in auto is that's going to be a killer at champs. Should be more reliable, but if you miss that, you're going to be pretty much done. I kind of wish the game design committee had allowed like double and triple balancing in auto. I think that would have been pretty wild at champs.
That'd have been nuts.
Yeah. But I understand why they didn't. But as a champs rule update, I think that would have been pretty sweet. So
yeah, I think this game specifically gives me almost a 2015 vibe, right? Where the game is won and lost in auto, and I think we're going to see that moving into the getting into champs, district championships, and the world championship as well. If you're missing some of those pieces in auto, it's going to be hard to come back from, because ultimately there are so many game pieces that can be scored. There's there's so many cycles that can be ran. It's giving me the 2015 vibe where if you missed the cans in auto, it was a rough going from there, just because you were a can down from there. So
yep.
Okay. Anything else to add before we go ahead and move to the next item?
So just real quick, like, when do you guys think that you would potentially see like our first maxed out grid? I think if you see it, it's either going to be at district champs, potentially like Texas or Michigan, New England maybe, or it could be like a California regional. You might see like the Poofs and Spartan or any kind of big powerhouse combination like that.
Yeah, so
we got Citrus and 254 at SVR, right?
Yeah, I think that's week 4.
So that was one thing that came to mind, was that. And then I think, Connor, you're probably right. We probably see it at a district championship from that point. I don't know that we'll actually see it at champs, only because there's going to be so much uber focus on those high, the high caliber teams that are in, whether you end up in a qual match where, say Citrus and Poofs are in the same division. Like, I don't find a way in which that other alliance is not putting a defensive robot at least to clog the middle of the field. So I think, even if you just slow it down a hair, they're probably not going to get it. So that's my at least thought for that. But Tyler, you had something to add?
Yeah, I guess one more question to ask around table, and Harrison, I think, alluded to this a little bit, is that let's say you are to GDC and you have the opportunity to make some changes. We just talked about double and triple balancing potentially in auto for the future. Are there any other changes that actually could be made that is, I guess, within scope of like what teams have already built, right? So if you were looking at making changes for week 6 or championships, other than autonomous, from a balancing perspective, what else could actually be changed?
One that comes to mind for me right away is being able to stack cones. I think that is something that you probably can do without varying design a lot. Most teams, their preset is set to just to be able to place, and you could probably, and some robots are built so that way they can't get above that, so that might be an issue. But I know, like in my team's case, obviously we have a double jointed arm, so it's more or less just a preset change for us, and it's probably not even that much because the cone's only, it's barely thick. It's not very.
Then you need more game pieces added, right?
I don't know that you actually
or the
do
same
though.
That's higher, right?
Yeah, because there's actually a lot of game pieces that are staged in the field, and a lot of them are not used. So it's hard to say. I think it would be, it would need to be determined on what the game flow looks like. And if you did do that, there may be a need for more game pieces. But I think in my mind, that's at least probably the easiest one to do without affecting the design changes. But, Harrison, do you have anything to add on that sense before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, notably, they didn't leave the clause in about point value changes in the manual. I don't think we're going to see anything, but those sorts of things are prime for IRI or Chessie Champs rule changes. So
I know, like FMS is written like the whole scoring system is written for like the way the game was intended. So I imagine that if that was the case, if the GDC wasn't thinking about that, it most likely isn't going to change, in my opinion, because they'd have to completely rewrite the whole scoring system. with like the referee tablets, having the official score, have extra buttons or extra commands or whatever. It would be really cool to see it, but I don't think it will happen.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Okay, before we go and jump into our final topic of the night, let's bring Tyler back on to start our giveaway for the show and talk about our show sponsor, Kettering University.
Yeah, thanks a lot. We have a fantastic $25 gift card from our friends at the Thrifty Bot. Make sure you head over to thriftybot.com. And, of course, a great keyword for the Thrifty Bot is very thrifty. So type that in chat right now. That's your opportunity to win. We'll draw for a winner near the end of the show. And make sure you check out thriftybot.com for a lot of fantastic components, especially if you're looking at doing some cool stuff in the offseason. Head over to thriftybot.com. And don't forget, by the way, thank our friends at Kettering University for their continued sponsorship and the continued support of First Updates Now. Hey, if you're looking for a great university to go to as a combat robot team, as well as a First Center with tons of FRC teams for you to help out with, take a look at Kettering University. Kettering University will have reps all over FRC and even some FTC events still to come, including being one of the field sponsors at the World Championship as well, too. So head over to kettering.edu/first to learn at where you can find yourself a Kettering rep to learn more about Kettering University to see if Kettering is a great fit for you.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Tyler. So jumping into our final topic of the night, we're going to be discussing the Everybot or RevBot and the advantages and disadvantages of some teams doing it, or maybe your team as well, on why you would maybe do it. There was a thread that came out on Chief Alpha about 5 days ago from T. Gilmore 533. And it asked, why teams build the Everybot clones instead of trying to design something for themselves. And kind of going to put you on the spot. We'll go ahead and start with you. Why do you think, the Everybot or RevBot is a good option for teams to just get to a quicker level, and why it might be a good fit for some teams?
That Everybot intake is just ungodly, like OP. Yeah. It's so good. My team, we tried, we threw the Everybot intake on our robot, and we were just like, please, design gods, allow us to be able to have this thing fit in our starting config without a wrist, and it just doesn't work with us. We're really upset that it doesn't, because if it did, that thing would be on our robot right now. Because in its config, we'd be able to pick up cones from the ground, but unfortunately, we can't do that right now. The one downside to the Everybot is the lack of being able to pick up game pieces on the ground, which that's a big thing for autos and early competitions, when you might have an interesting qual schedule where your opponents or your partners are leaving those game pieces on the ground, so that you have to completely abandon at maximum 8 game pieces there. That can be pretty detrimental. But as we've seen, teams are getting pretty good at being able to cycle from the single or the double substation, and fast cycles, very simple robot. I mean, that can be an absolute killer.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, the Everybot movement in general is a really, in my opinion, an extreme positive for FRC. There was a lot of teams previously, and I know we see it in Michigan occasionally as well, but you see it everywhere. But, there would be teams that would just unfortunately come with a drivetrain just because they don't either have the mentor capability, or, maybe their team only meets once a week or some sort, so they don't have the time to design that. And I think the Everybot solution and the RevBot or minimum competitive concept, whichever you look at, really provides a unique opportunity for those teams that do have low resources, that only have a couple $1,000, or their mentor, they just have a big mentor loss, and there's only a couple people that are still around that aren't strong in certain categories. And I really think that the Everybot provides their set, that team a very positive experience then that they might not have had otherwise. One thing that I think might be a disadvantage of using the Everybot is obviously you're using a robot that multiple teams have. You don't necessarily have that uniqueness that might set yourself apart from other in judging the creativity award and stuff like that. Might not set yourself apart in that sense, but ultimately you're going to do what's best for your team, and for a good amount of teams, doing the Everybot or minimum competitive concept is the right option for their team. So Harrison, overall thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so it's kind of my thoughts on this are kind of the same as us doing the build blog, right? And it's so much of FRC is some institutional knowledge that isn't documented anywhere. And the Rev starter bot, the Everybot, kind of at a higher level, not necessarily 2023 specific, right? But it's kind of a prepackaged kit to learn how to build FRC robots, right?
Yeah.
So a team that builds those, they're not just building a robot for that season. They're learning how to build an FRC robot, for that year, for the next year, for the year after that. And especially the Everybot this year is a great starting off point. 8122 Mechanical Mustaches in Midwest. They took the robots, cookie cutter Everybot design, moved that over to a swerve base, designed and built a cube floor pickup. And they were easily top 10 scoring robot in the Midwest. So, that knowledge they learned from building the preset kit instructions, paid off in letting them begin to design their own mechanisms and bolt those onto robots. So I love to see it. I'm all for this. And any sort of open source design like this is good for the community.
Yeah, you bring up a good point too, and it really provides the teams a good opportunity that maybe they're in between where they or don't have no mentor help, but have some mentor ability where they can just take that cookie cutter and then mod on that. Do things that they would be able, like you said, doing the cube floor pickup, or maybe changing the way the arm works a little bit, making their own twist on it, and that way, back to what I said maybe about a disadvantage of not having that something that sets you apart, that you taking the cookie cutter and then designing those things to actually set yourself apart in that sense. But Tyler, something to add?
Something I want to bring you guys' attention, and Nick coming from Michigan as well too, is we just released a behind the bumpers with 6002 Robotics, who have a phenomenal robot that took straight up inspiration from Everybot, and were the #1 seed at their event as well. And they did modifications. You look at the cool wrists they're doing, able to do floor intake, that sort of thing too. This robot is badass. And looking at this team is like 6 students that were able to take the Everybot platform, iterate on it, and completely just take an event by storm that nobody, like in general, some local teams were like, oh, maybe this team's up on the rise, but nobody expected this team to seed #1, and they absolutely were phenomenal at their event.
Yeah, I remember watching, we had this matchup again at the shop on Saturday, and I was like, whoa, what is that team? They were like, the wrist addition to it, first of all, I think is a great idea. I 100% regret not doing a rotating wrist. I'm going to put it out. The rotating wrists are absolutely badass for this game. But yeah, I remember seeing this, and I was like, that's a perfect example of what we're talking about, taking something from the Everybot, inspiring it, and modding on it. And I think that's totally a great idea in that sense. Anybody else have any last word? Oh, go ahead, Connor.
Yeah, so something to note, some people in chat, 1939 won the Creativity Award with a modified Everybot, and then 1255 won Imagery with a powder-coated Everybot. So not only is it doing well in the field, it's winning awards. So
yeah, there you go. Okay, well, thanks again for everybody tuning up to FRC Roundup. Special thanks to all those who clicked that follow button or stepped up to help fund. Oh, we do have to draw the giveaway. We'll go ahead and draw for that before we go ahead and get into our outro.
Yeah, no worries. Go ahead and draw for that. Once again, $25 gift card for our friends at ThriftyBot. Just call me Jeff. Apparently, it's a correspondent night to win. So congratulations, Jeff. Lots of rigged emotes in chat. Clearly, we rigged it for Jeff to win. And thanks a lot to ThriftyBot for the $25 gift card. Go check them out, thriftybot.com.
Okay, now thank you all for tuning in to FRC Roundup. Special thanks to all those who clicked that follow button or stepped up to help fund with a Twitch subscription or donation. Your support really helps us continue to make great content. Don't forget, you can watch FRC Roundup archived at youtube.com/first updates now, and watch live Mondays after FRC recap during the competition season. Thank you, Harrison from 111 and 112, our guests, for coming on tonight. And on behalf of our producer, Tyler Olds, my co-host, Connor, and all fun correspondents, I'm Nick Jr., and thanks for watching. Good luck to all the teams competing in week 3 of competition season this weekend. And big thanks to our moderators in chat as well. See you next week, same day, same time, where we take a look at what is going on with FIRST Robotics on FRC Roundup. Thanks, everyone.
This video on First Updates Now is made possible by viewers like you and also the following sponsors. Kettering University is looking for talented robotics students who want to continue learning and innovating in a hands-on, real-world experience format. Kettering University representatives will be at dozens of FIRST events this season, including the championship. Go to kettering.edu/first to see which events you can meet a Kettering University representative. FRC competition season is here. Submit your favorite moments to FRC Clips of the Week by each Sunday at discord.gg/firstupdatesnow. Also, the FRC Top 25 poll is open Sunday 5 p.m. Eastern to Monday 5 p.m. Eastern, where you can vote for your top 25 teams of the week at firstupdatesnow.com/FRC Top 25. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay up to date on our new videos. Keep the conversation going and provide your input to our content. Watch our live shows at twitch.tv/firstupdatesnow. Join our Discord at discord.gg/firstupdatesnow and check out Fun FTC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and First Updates Now on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.